cooking with gas and oil. Alrighty, here we go. There. Demain. Great. Loved it. So nice I had to read it twice. It's Bill Dung's. It's about a young boy growing into a young man. I saw myself so clearly, eerily, so in this character. It was like a giant exhale the entire time I was reading it. It was like, oh, I'm not the only one. Okay, that's really nice to read. Magical thinking, I guess is the way you can describe it, or if you're a seeker, you can call it the path, whatever, however you want to say it. Anyway, this book is a facsimile of it. It was crazy to me, just seeing someone capture the experience of these plausibly deniable events. Kind of like how I was talking about with One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich, how I was saying that this book captured the systematized, when you're in the system and you're standardized. There's a word, I better put it up. This is probably the word I'm looking for. How it described that mindset so eerily well that there's no chance that this guy didn't experience it himself. I feel the same way with Demain. He also captured just moments of growing up, like that Gaussian blur of childhood. You know, like what the sunlight looks like through your window when you're a kid. Like he has that written down in black and white English here. He wrote it in German, but brief synopsis. Demain is about Emile Sinclair. This is the pseudonym that Hermann Hesse wrote this book under. This is the book that made him famous. But by the time it was published, Emile Sinclair would have been around 20-ish. Hermann Hesse, in actuality, was about 40-ish. Even still, the youth of Germany at the time felt very connected. The book is written in retrospect from Emile Sinclair's perspective as a 20-something, reflecting on the growth he experienced physically and spiritually as a child, being acutely aware of, he calls it the dark and the light world, but if you're like, a lobster head, I think it's easier for me to view it in terms of order and chaos. For him, he explains it in terms of his parents being the progenitors of this good light world and all things around them that the servants speak of, all the nasty things of the world, the backroom deals, the stabbings, the witches and stuff, all that belong to the realm of darkness, but it's just not safe. And you have to go into that world, yada, yada, yada. Demain is Emile Sinclair's friend, but also something of a guru type character, a master of himself who's able to control the world, control himself to some degree. I mean, all things in degrees, ladies and gentlemen. He serves as like a guide to our friend Emile, the author. And he is in love with him and he hates him. He is, the balance of both worlds. So both of Emile's feelings are reflected back to him from Demain. I'm not going to break down the spiritual significance of every single thought and event in this guy's life, because that's like the fun of this book. But I will tell you what happens. So if you don't want to read about that, get the heck out of here. All right. Oh, by the way, do you like this little Eon Flux shirt? You like my shirt? It's pretty kick-ass. I gotta say, I got it from a person on the internet, and you can buy it here because I'm so happy I got this shirt. I'm such a neckbeard. Anyway, Emile, he's 10 years old, clearly sees order and chaos, yada. And he hangs out one day after school with like this older kid and these two kids who they kind of know each other, Emile and the two kids, but like there's this older kid who's like, he walks like a man, he spits through his teeth, he's like gruff. Emile, since he lives in like a nice house with a nice family, he feels like if he needs to like buff himself up in order to be accepted, or else like if he's too soft, they'll kick him out. So they're all sitting around chilling by the lake. They start telling braggadocio stories, and Emile makes one up about sometimes that he stole some apples. Fromer, the grown kid, he looks at him real slit-eyed, and he's like, did that really happen? Yeah, it happened. And then he's like, say a word, that happened for real. and he swears on it happened, yada yada, okay. And then he uses that information later to extort Emil, saying, oh, I know the guy you stole it from, and he offered 2 marks if someone has any information as to who has been stealing from him. So, I mean, I can get some money. You're rich, I don't have the money, I need this money. So either you give me 2 marks or I can get him from this guy by selling you out. That was like his direct punishment for lying and swearing on God. From then on, everything in his life is just completely turned around. No more safety at home. He belongs to the dark world now. Then he meets Demain, maybe a year or so older than Emil, but Max Demain is like, he looks like a man, you know? He acts weird, like he's pretending to be a kid, is how he acts. He talks to Emil a little bit, and he gives a weird interpretation about the Cain and Abel story. He tells Emil that he can read minds, and he gets Emil free from Cromer. Lord knows how, but suddenly Cromer just like acts like he doesn't know Emil no more after, like, for real, just always extorting the kid, making him do stuff. But instead of getting closer to Demain, Emil like backs away. He doesn't really want to get close to anybody anymore. He just runs right back to home and tries to be like a normal kid again. Later on, maybe a year or so, Demain and Emil, they get to confirmation. I don't know what that is, I'm not Catholic. Demain does a few minor miracles and stuff. And he kind of like, in a sense, just exemplifies Emil's 2 halves theory and starts like talking back to him and like explaining the 2 worlds theory in context. So to Emil, it's like he knows someone who understands his innermost thoughts. That means a lot to our boy. One day during class, Demain like talks too much. Like he doesn't like talking all that much, so he just decides to sit and like go into a very deep meditation, but they don't say the M word. But Emil can feel it. He can feel like Demain isn't there anymore. There's like a palpable like silence and a deadness to his flesh. I don't know what, but that just sparks this desire in Emil to just start meditating when he gets home. And like, of course, he doesn't say the M word. He just is meditating. He's just sitting still. And he goes off to school when he gets older. Starts drinking. Starts being like a low level, just drunk person. He doesn't really get on with any chicks. He's failing school, sort of self-destructing, kind of as like rebellion for like, I don't know, against everything. Until he starts crushing on this local girl who I don't think he said 2 words to, but just having her as an image to like venerate is like helpful for him. He tries to paint the girl's face from memory. Her name is Beatrice. It doesn't matter, it could be anybody, right? It's dude bro lit, classic misogyny. There's like one woman of consequence in this book. All the others are just paper cutouts. So he tries to paint her from memory. It ends up becoming more like Demain's face. But he paints his old coat of arms, which Demain liked. He doesn't really remember what the coat of arms was other than like a sparrow hawk. And so he starts like just kind of trying to think of it. And it ends up looking like a sparrow hawk fighting its way out of an egg. So he's like, fine, whatever, sign, stamp, send it off to Demain's house. Maybe he gets it, maybe he doesn't, you know, whatever. Then the reply does come, but it comes in a weird way. He's sitting in class in a book as if some other kid just left the note in there from some other earlier class. It said something about Abraxas is the godhead that unites a god and a devilish elements, something or other. So he's walking around and he hears some organ music late at night. The only music that I've heard that has the same quality that I can like perceive, okay, I always thought of it as like a Scriabin, like music. Like he ran into like Scriabin practicing in an organ, you know what I mean? Enter the rest of the sentence here. He meets this ecstatic organist who isn't really like, he's very touchy, doesn't like to talk to people. He brings up Abraxas and bang, you know, that's the magic word. And they start doing fire scrying. This guy, his name is Pastorius, the organist, and he is a drunk. At this point, Emil was over his drinking phase, but Pastorius, he likes to get drunk. And he sees him drunk and he's like, oh, so that's his tether to the world. But then he also says to himself, perhaps his path is more sure in his drunkenness than mine in my dreams. So it's just like, yeah, man, you never know. You know, people say that about freaking tons of people. Sai Baba was sucking little boys' dicks or whatever, But I mean, you can't say that he didn't know God. And same thing with our boy Alan Watts. Everyone loves Alan Watts, and his talks are super useful, even though he drunk himself to death.
Hi, editor here. I just want to clarify the point that I was just making. With all these spiritual folks and people who have reached a certain amount of enlightenment, there tends to come a misunderstanding. And I don't know why. You can suppose why, and I suppose sate yourself on that, seeing as it might make sense. With these people, like I said, Satya Sai Baba, Osho, all these people who have questionable histories, even Mother Teresa and Gandhi, there are things about them that so many can't help but bring up. I suppose I can sum up my clarification with this. Those are things that you suppose you know about this person, but you don't know what you don't know about these people, and you don't know what you don't know about the situations that you're referring to. Okay, it's complicated. Life is a lot of stuff, so that's that. Okay.
Anyway, it's getting cold out here. He meets a boy in his class who is like a white magician. He focuses completely on self-control, and he knows that there's something about Emil that's special. He sees spirits, I think is how he says. He contacts the spirit realm, or yada yada. Our boy Emil is like, I can't help you, bro. I don't know what you're about, but I'm not about what you're about. The thing about white magic is that you need to be sexually continent, he says, abstinent, no fat, that's how they say. And our boy is struggling with night dreams of the illicit variety. But Emil is like, no, I can't help you. So he's like, you ain't nothing, bro.
You ain't bad, you ain't nothing!
And he starts getting mad at him. But then Emil goes to sleep at night, and he wakes up, and he's like drawn blindly to the kid. He's like walking around the streets like looking for somebody or feeling something. And he just runs into the kid as he's like sitting down there. And the kid summoned him in a sense, but the kid is going to kill himself because he can't stand dealing with the polarity inside of him. He said, I'm going to wait until morning, and if no one comes to help me, I'm going to kill myself. But Emil came to him and said, hey man, you're not evil just because you want to screw. It's just that this path isn't for you, bro. After school, he went back to his home. He meets back up with Demain as an adult and with Demain's mom. And Demain's mother is like the one thing that kept like recurring in all of his visions. He kept seeing a face that was like Demain's, but like more feminine. And he felt so many like conflicting emotions for her because it was like the absolute unity. You know what I mean? But that absolute unity was Demain's mother, Frau Eva Demain. So he's got it hot for Demain's mom. Demain's mom is like, okay, so this can happen and all that, but not like this. It's like a whole thing. I'm not gonna get into it. Anyway, so this is the part where the big twist in the story happens. You remember that movie, or that's just a book too, From Here to Eternity, where it's like a love story for like most of the story, and then at the very end, how it's a World War II novel. This is the same thing with here, except at the end it's to World War I. There's like all these premonitions of like death and war coming, and then how World War I happens, they get drafted out. Demain, during all this time, had become an army lieutenant, so he's out there fighting for the German army, and so is the homie Emil. And they get hurt on the battlefield, and Demain and Emil share a kiss that was like Demain's mother. It's a weird thing. You read it for yourself. It's pretty gay, but it's not that gay, you know what I mean? Real touching because it's like disembodied kiss from the universe. Sure, I guess I can end it here. It doesn't really matter. So when I first read it, it was definitely a 5-star read just because I wasn't ready for such a faithful representation of that kind of life. On the second reading, I'm not so sure, just because in terms of like writing style, I'm not tripping over how it was written. There aren't too many passages that strike me as like absolutely unreasonably good. It's just nice to know there's someone out there like you. I think that's the point of this book. Maybe not, I don't know. That might be the point of Hermann Hesse as a person. Yep, yeah, I'm done. Oh, I didn't.